All right, so I'm gonna start this Friday. We're gonna be talking about MRP. Last week we talked about make to order, basically how to review, how to create production and purchase orders based on open sales orders. Today we're gonna be talking about MRP that is more gears towards make to stock. It basically takes everything to a blender and give you recommendation what do you need to purchase, what do you need to produce based on your open items. Now MRP is normally one of the one of the more complex um, attributes or modules in SAP Business One. So hopefully we will go through some of those challenges, and I will give you the tools to troubleshoot and to set it up correctly so you get true results and you can count on them. So the agenda basically, right now we just review quickly the last month session about make to order. We see how we use the procurement wizard, things of that nature. Today we're going to be focused about MRP. We're going to be talking about what is MRP, what is the administration settings we will have to do, how to record documents and how MRP consumes documents. We're going to be running a full run of the MRP wizard. We're going to see what alerts are available and additional documentation that you can refer to if you are planning to implement it. Make sense so far?
Yes.
Hey, Carol, how are you?
Good. So I'm late.
We just started. So let's get into business one. So MRP is really material resources planning. What it does, it looks at the current inventory and minimum balances that you might define. It looks at the open sales order, open purchase order, or productions. And based on everything you have in the system, including forecasts that you can set, MRP gives you a result. What do you need to order and when? What do you need to produce and when to fulfill the requirement by your actual customers that place orders, or by the forecast based on last year results, things of that nature. So let's start maybe with administration settings. What do we need to do before we start handling MRP? And I'm not touching in this session in all the points. I'm touching the most critical points to set up for MRP. And then I will, at the end of the session, I will share some of the documentations available so you can learn more if you need to. So the first thing under administration and under general settings, there are some settings around under inventory, under planning, and that's basically to configure the forecast if we want to use forecast. And if we use forecast, is it going to consume sales orders or not? So if we don't want the forecast to consume sales order, we can uncheck that. What it means, if we had a forecast to sell, 100 items for a specific month, for this month, but customers already placed orders for 20 items. So what we are saying here, do we want to consume the forecast? And basically, do we want the 20 units to consume the 100 units forecasted for this month or for this week? So the forecast will be basically just 80 because the open sales order consumed the forecast. So that's what it means. And then you have all kinds of options. How many days you want to go backwards and forward to consume the forecast. And you have the method if it's going to be backwards, forwards, looking first backwards or doing vice versa. So this is one definition that is available. The other thing that you need to make sure is in the item master data. And the item master data defaults comes from the item group, and we will look at that shortly. But all the definitions are in the production and in the planning data, mainly the planning data, and we can update that manually or through DTW or through the import from Excel feature. It's really easy to update all those fields. I know DTW could be a little bit hectic for people that are not very technical, but there is also a basic data import or data update that is available in Business One, especially if we are talking about business partners or items. So if we want to update some of those fields across the board from Excel, we have them all available under the import from Excel features, and it's really easy. You create an Excel, um, with the relevant columns you have here in the column A in Excel, B, C, and D. You enter the fields you want to upload, and it's really easy to do that also for a non-technical user. So let's look at some of those definitions, and I'm going to choose an item that we have, production order for. So this item, for example. So in this item, if we are looking at the planning data, one of the things we really have to make sure is that the planning method is MRP. Because there will be some items that we don't want to run as part of the MRP. Maybe they are not very, we don't want to have them as part of every other item. So you can have MRP or none. So in order to be a part of the MRP, it needs to be marked as MRP. Procurement method, are we going to buy it or are we going to make it? Okay. If it says buy, the system will recommend purchasing. If you have make, the system will recommend production for this item. Component issue, a component warehouse. What warehouse are we going to use when MRP is giving us recommendation? Is it going to come from the bill of material or from the sales order or from the document line of the parent item? So that's a definition that can be made in an item. Order interval. So in some items, we can, the interval is weekly or monthly or every X days. We can define those cycles here, and MRP will consider that. If we don't want to order every week, we want to order this item once a month or once every 2 months, maybe because of long lead times, maybe because it comes from the Far East, things of that nature. Order multiples, maybe we have some restrictions coming from the vendor that we can order only in quantities of 500 or 300 or 50 or 25, whatever that will be. This is where you want to define that. And also the minimum order quantity. Lead time, specify the number of days basically for the item to arrive since we make the purchase order. So that helps the system go backwards when creating the requirement, including of tolerance day that are in addition to the lead time that takes to the item to get into our warehouse. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So by the way, most of those definitions are coming from the item group. So if I look at the group, and if you have groups of items, you can define for a group of item that it's going to be MRP and it's going to be buy and the order interval and things of that nature. And then when you create new items, automatically those definitions will be applied to the items, and you don't need to go one by one and define the item. Okay.
What if you change the definitions at the item group? Does it go back and change all the items that are already there?
No, it will apply from now going forward. If you want to update the existing items, I would recommend maybe to do a quick query or to generate a file of all your items, including those attributes.
Okay.
View them in Excel and bring them back to SAP as an import.
Okay.
Okay, additional definitions in the item is basically around inventory data. If we manage inventory by warehouse, we can define for every warehouse what will be the minimum quantity, the maximum quantity, and the required quantity. And the MRP will take that into consideration. You can also do that by the item level and not by the warehouse level if you wish to.
What does the required quantity do?
The required quantity, when you place a new purchase order, if you have a required quantity, for example, now I have in stock 1114 and I say required quantity is 1200 or 1100, sorry, tells me that it needs to be higher than the minimum quantity, which does make sense. So let's do 1300 as the required quantity. Next time I'm going to place a purchase order without even MRP, the system should recommend me to purchase the gap between what I have in stock to what I have required. So if I do a purchase order just for a random vendor, yeah, I have to choose the Euro one, right? And I choose this item. Let me check this item again. I have availability 2752. I have ordered something, so that's why it doesn't recommend anything. So let's do maybe 3000. Okay. And next time I'm going to choose this item, you see that it's automatically recommending the quantity to order the additional 248.
Cool.
So it's the gap between the available and the required quantity that the PO will recommend you automatically.
Now, will it also automatically recommend based on the multiples? Say your multiple was 500, would it automatically then just put in 500?
I think only in the MRP, but not in the purchase order. I think the required is really only a feature of the purchase order, but it's a good question, and let me test it really quick. So let's say order multiple is 500. Let's delete this line, write it back. You see it's still showing 248, but when we're going to run MRP for this item, it will show us the 500 order multiples. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so maybe we looked at the item master, we looked at the main definitions. Let's look to the MRP and see the forecast, and then we can look at the documents and what's important when you create a document, and then we can go ahead and run some tests on this item maybe. Hopefully we'll have some problems so we can walk through troubleshooting some of those issues. Okay?
I have faith in you that you'll find problems.
Yeah. But Carol, it's not problems with the systems. It's a problems because really it takes so many data from so many different areas. So when you first set up MRP and before fully relying on the results, you really want to make sure that your system is configured, that the items are configured, and mainly in documents that the due date or the delivery date in documents is correct. Otherwise, it's not going to show you the results, accurate results.
Okay.
So let's look maybe at the forecast. Let me close everything here. So in the forecast is under the MRP, and in the forecast you can define a daily, a weekly, and a monthly forecast. So we can add a forecast which will say first Friday test. Okay. First Friday test, and I can choose all items if I wish to, or I can choose just this item that we are looking at, and we can define weekly, daily, monthly. I guess you guys, most of you are doing weekly, so let's look at the weekly forecast. You can enter the numbers of your forecast based on calculations you have done, based on customer communication, based on whatever it will be. You can enter the forecast. More than that, if you wish to and you have it in Excel, for example, let's say I have an Excel of all those items, okay? And let's say, let me copy the table and open an Excel here, okay? And let's say I calculated in Excel, the forecast, 20, 30, 40, and so forth and so forth. I'll copy them here. I'll copy them here. What we can do, we can just take this forecast or those items and very easily paste them in the forecast. So we don't really have to go through upload or anything like that. So if you like to do your forecast in Excel, that's perfect scenario to bring it into the forecast.
I love copy paste feature. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, love it. Um, it's still there are still some places where it's sometimes with UDFs or UDTs that it doesn't work perfect, but in all other grids it works really nicely.
Hey, Oren, is there a program that would do like a best fit?
Yeah, now
It would automatically generate a forecast for us?
yeah, and this is what I was about to show you now.
Perfect.
So basically, if we take this item, we can define this forecast like we saw, but we can also generate the forecast. But this one, Abraham, is quite limited, right? Because I can generate the forecast for this item, 1200, and in the advanced settings, I can say how I want to calculate the forecast. Is it based on sales history? And then how do I calculate the weekly forecast? Is it going to be based on simple average or weekly history? Okay. And then it asks us, do we base our sales history based on sales orders? But there are some sales orders that are canceled, not delivered, things of that nature. So, or we want to do that based on actual deliveries and invoices. And then when we calculate it from the beginning of the year, from the beginning of the month, things of that nature. So I'm going to do that from the beginning of the year. And it changed the date for me to the beginning of the week in that date.
Oh.
And I'm going to do OK. And it's calculate the forecast, and it gives me the numbers based on the history. I can also say that I have an increase this year because in Oregon they approved legal recreational drugs. So obviously are growing X% this year, and we can incorporate that into the forecast if we wish to. Perfect. So we click on add, and this is the forecast. So we have a forecast. We can generate multiple forecasts, one that will be optimistic, one pessimistic, and run MRP based on different forecasts and look at the results. Okay. Last thing before I get into the wizard is basically the documents. The main documents for the MRP wizard is sales orders, and purchase orders, because this is what creates commitment and to the customer or from the vendor. Other documents that are important if you're using them is reserved invoice, because reserved invoice also create commitments for the inventory and also from the purchasing side. So it's going to be sales order and reserved invoice, PO and AP reserved invoice that are affecting MRP.
What about production orders?
Production orders, definitely. Open production orders are affecting the forecast. If you're using production, you got to make sure that you close your productions. As long as the production are still in planned or released, MRP will take them into consideration, unless if you don't want that to happen. So it is important to close your production. The very important in all those documents, the very important thing to look at is the delivery date. Okay, so if we create a sales order with 200 units, and I'm adding a due date of in 2 weeks from now, I need to send it to the customer. This is what is important for MRP. And actually not what you're looking for, not this delivery date, actually this delivery date. It looks at the line. Now, in most cases, well, it depends, how you operate, but in some cases, your delivery date will be the same for all rows. But in other cases, delivery date might be different in different rows, right? So it's very important to look at those days, because this is what going to affect MRP. Okay.
Does the purchase order have that capability?
The purchase order has that capability as well. You just need to go to the form setting and expose the delivery date. Okay. And one more thing about, when you create a sales order, there is one more field, and we looked at consume forecast, yes or no, in the administration level, but there should be also field here. Yeah, consume forecast. You see this one? So you can decide on an order level whether you want to consume forecast, yes or not. Okay, and in this case it's yes automatically, because it takes the definition from the administration. But I can say in this order, you know what, don't consume the forecast. My forecast is still 100, because it was from another bigger client that hasn't placed their order. Okay. All right, so we're ready, I guess, for the MRP run. So let's run the wizard, and please wish me luck. We're gonna start with the wizard. It takes you through every step, and it tells you what it does and things of that nature. So feel free to read. You can create as many scenarios as you wish, and I'm going to create a new scenario. Once you define a scenario, you define it once. You don't need to define it multiple times. You can always run the same scenario, and the system can send you alerts to specific users to run the MRP wizard. So let's first Friday run. We're gonna hit a next, and then you have the scenario details. The scenario details ask you what's your planning horizon. So if you have sales orders that the delivery date is in the past, you might want to expose your planning horizon and have it from the beginning of the year and not from today. But if you maintain your delivery dates in an accurate way, you can say, I want to plan it from today until maybe the end of the year, or depends how your how your horizon looks like, and how your lead time looks like, things of that nature. We're gonna plan it in weeks. So we have 9 weeks between the horizon, and we can consider holidays for production or for purchase item. Now the system don't always know your holidays. What are your holidays? So in order to define the holidays under administration, under the company details, under accounting data, there is a forecast table. Okay, and it's defined for now until 2015. You can drill down to 2015. Make sure your holidays are aligned with the company policy, holiday policy, and you'll see all kinds of different options to how to define the weekends, things of that nature. Okay. You can also define your own holidays and define it for future years, things of that nature. Just add, those days. But when you run MRP, the MRP really looking on those dates. So make sure it has the right year if you want to consider holidays. Okay.
Does it already know the weekends?
You see, you have all kinds of options here. So weekend from Saturday to Sunday. That's my default. In Muslim countries, it will be Friday. In Israel, it's Friday and Saturday. So you can define it as you want, and you can also set weekends as work days, yes or not. So it depends on you and how your company works. I guess the default setup is going to be working for you because that's what most of the world is doing. Okay.
If you're working, what about work hours? Does that just assume there's 7.5 hours in a workday?
No, that's exactly another features we're gonna be looking, probably not today, but maybe in another day, which is the resources. You can set up master data and capacity and how many days you have and how many hours and how many shifts, things of that nature.
Okay.
I would advise you though to do baby steps. Start with defining production, things of that nature, and then get into the resource capacity. All right, so we're going to proceed with the wizard. You can consider holidays for production, for purchase, or for both. And you have all kinds of preferences how to display the results at the last step. For now, I'm going to leave it as a default with the assembly sequence and with the sub-assemblies that this item has. You can always save the scenario, so you can go back to this same one, so you don't have to redefine everything. So so if everything defined, I can from here just run the MRP. I don't have to go through all steps, but for this presentation, we're gonna go through each step. So we're gonna do next, I can select to do for all items, obviously all items that are defined as MRP, or to selected items, and in that case I can do for a specific group, or I can do for properties of specific items, things of that nature. So I can have different runs for different groups, basically. For my example, I'm gonna do my 1200 item. Okay. I'm gonna hit on next, and this is where the MRP asks me if I want to do the planning based on a company level or based on a warehouse level. If I'm gonna do based on a company level, and I have in one warehouse enough quantity and not in another warehouse, the system will not recommend me to purchase or to produce those items. So if I have branches like Flashco has, you would probably want to do that in a warehouse level. And there are all kinds of other options going in the next steps that the system can also recommend for inventory transfers if you have in one warehouse quantity and you don't have that in another warehouse. Okay? And then you define the warehouses you want to plan to, so you can plan it just for a specific warehouse and run, again, multiple MRP runs for different facility or for different warehouses. But for now, and for this example, I'm going to define all the warehouses. Save scenario again. Click on next. And you know what? I'll go back and I'll define it in the company level so it will be easier to analyze the results. Okay. And I'll click on next. And this is where you have more options. And this is a great screen because it gives you a lot of options that will fit almost any company that want to do inventory planning. And this is what it is all about, inventory planning. And a lot of companies on your side normally holds a guy or two just to do that, just to do the inventory planning. And the MRP really enables you to get results in one click of a button so that person can do other stuff and help with the growth of the company. So let's look at the different options we have. The time range, is it going to be only within the planning horizon that we have defined, or do we want to include also historical data from previous sales order, things of that nature? So I'm going to leave it within the planning horizon that we set up. And then we have all kinds of options. What do we need to include? And each document that we are including, we need to make sure that users in your organizations are entering accurately the delivery date. And maybe you want to set some alerts, maybe you want to set some reports, maybe you want to set some blocks to make sure the information is accurate and people are updating those dates, because otherwise the MRP wizard is worth nothing. All right, so you can incorporate purchase requests, purchase quotations if you use those. You can decide, obviously, purchase orders. If you have open purchase orders, you don't want to order the same item again because it's on the way. If you have purchase orders that are confirmed or not confirmed, there is also an option to restrict those purchase orders. So you can add a document. You can choose document number X. I don't want this document to be as part of this run because I know it hasn't been confirmed and it's still in process, but we already sent the PO to the vendor. There are multiple options here to restrict those. So if you want to use that, you can also use a project code. So every PO that is associated with a specific project will not be included as part of the run, and things of that nature. You can also look at approved orders only. So for example, if I go into this document that the system chose for me, you see that it's approved. Okay? So the system will choose just this. So in the purchase order and in the sales order, I can play with those buttons to determine if it's going to be part of the MRP run, yes or not. And same thing is available for all of those documents. Okay? Make sense so far, guys? Okay, you have also the blanket purchase agreement. I know not many clients are using that, so I'm going to check that. But that basically the ability to define, either under purchasing or sales, to define a blanket agreement, a contract with the client. This is what I'm going to buy this year, and those are going to be the prices, things of that nature. But I know not many of you are using that, so I'm going to skip that. Sales quotation, sales order, blanket sales agreement, production orders, inventory transfer, reserved invoice, almost anything that you have in the system that could affect is available in the MRP run. Inventory levels, excuse me, I can define each of the fields we've seen in the item level. So in that case, I'm going to look at the minimum inventory, and we can look at the forecast as well when we have multiple forecasts, and we can always define U. In this case, I will choose the first Friday that we created earlier. We can drill down, make sure the forecast is correct. We can adjust some numbers if we wish to, things of that nature. Okay. Recommendations, we can recommend to create purchase requests or actual purchase orders. In some cases, you want to look at the purchase request before going to a purchase order, but if it doesn't create any automation in the purchase orders, you can just create a purchase order, go to the purchase order, and review them after the MRP run. Anyways, the MRP allows you to view the results before creation of the document, so it's your choice. And in this case, the production orders is automatically checked because my item is a production item. That's why it has to recommend on a production orders. And if I would do that per warehouse, I could also check the inventory transfer to get recommendations. So if I have inventory in one warehouse and have demand in another warehouse, the system can recommend me to do the inventory transfer.
Sorry, Oren, say that again, because I see they're grayed out. How do they grayed out?
I think it's grayed out, like the production order grayed out because some of the items or the items that I chose, the item that I choose is a production item, and it's a make item, so it has to recommend me the production orders. Some of the components of these items are purchase or are purchase items, so it has to recommend me for purchase. So in that case, I don't have a choice. Okay.
Okay. Another question: If you run MRP and say you have the purchase request checked on this scenario, and you run MRP and you get these messages or these requests, and the next day something changes, and will it cancel old requests automatically, or once a request is done, the buyer or planner or whoever needs to take action on that request no matter what?
Well, in this case, I don't take request into consideration, right? But let's talk about purchase order, okay? So we are on the same page. Let's say I run the MRP and it's created a purchase order. The purchase order has been created. Now, next time I'm running MRP, MRP also already sees that the purchase order is created. So it will consider that in the next run, and obviously it will not recommend me to do additional purchasing because the purchase order is already in place.
Correct.
But it will not cancel, to your question, it will not cancel or modify existing transactions. It's only create new transactions.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions so far?
Nope.
Carol, Josh? No?
Nope.
Okay. So the next step, this is basically step 5 or 6. So the next step will be to run the wizard. So I'm going to be running the wizard. And in that case, it was very fast. Sometimes it takes more time, depends how many items you run it. I would recommend to run, if you run it for all items and you have 5,000 items and 10,000 open documents, I would recommend to run it to go to make some coffee and come back. So otherwise, it could take a few minutes. Unless if you run on HANA, by the way. And we can look at each items. The red items are problematic. Why? It means I cannot meet the due date. Okay. The blue items, the black items are good. So if we look at the 1200, we see a requirement for 500, And when I click on that, the system tells me what I need to do. So I need to do a production order for 500, and I need to do 1000 here, and I need to do 500. And why is it in multiples of 500? It's because it's what is defined for the item. I defined for the item, if we'll drill down into the item, just to remind you, that we have defined order multiples of 500. It means every time I go into production, I don't do something else. I do only multiples of 500. So that's why the system recommend me to do those numbers. I can also expand that to get more information on the demand, or I can expand everything if I want to. And this shows me, what how the demand was created. So I have in inventory 1114, and we've seen that we have a supply of 500. How do we have a supply of 500? Because of the production order that haven't been created. Okay, because of this recommendation. Now I can decide not to show the expected inventory with the results, or I can decide to show what will be the expected inventory if I execute those recommendations. Okay, so if I have a supply of 500 from a production order that I'm going to create next week, my total inventory will be 1614. And then, that shows you the initial inventory for the following week is going to be 1614. I have another supply of 1000. That is another production order. I have a demand of 1000. Why do I have this demand of 1000? It's because of the forecast of first Friday for 1000 in this week. Okay, and I can see this forecast. So if I, as a planner, it's really great tool for a planner to work with and drill down into the transaction, drill down into what creates the demand, and maybe adjust, maybe fix dates, maybe fix quantities, and work with the rest of your team to make it perfect. But we can also filter just problem items, and the problematic items are just the red ones. So let's look at the red ones. Any questions so far?
No, great.
No.
All right, so the red ones are the problematic. Why? Because we have the initial inventory minus 14 for this one. Okay, so let's look at that. Why I have minus 14? First, I see that I have in stock. I have in stock minus 14. Okay, so I allowed minimum inventory, so I have minus 14. So the system tells me you're gonna be in day one, you are in minus 14, so you have a problem. But also, if some of the purchase orders are supposed to arrive after I have demand, it will also show me that in red, and it's a good thing because we can follow up with the customer and things of that nature. Okay. And let's collapse. The last thing to do is basically look at the recommendation, and obviously we see a recommend. So let's look at that. So we have multiple production order recommendation, one for each week that we will need it. We have multiple purchase order recommendation, one for each week to when we need it. And obviously we can consolidate them, or we can define in the item that we want to do planning, every 1 month and not every week. But because under the planning data in this item, we didn't have order, order interval, it shows me results that are equivalent to my planning once every week.
So did it not create purchase orders? It just recommended purchase orders?
It's recommending purchase orders. I can review that, and I can execute those recommendations to create the purchase order for me. So let's get into that now. I need to save recommendations. Okay. From here, I can go to order recommendations to execute those production and those purchase orders. Or if somebody else is doing that, I can go under the MRP to order recommendation. It will take me to exactly same window if I choose the first Friday scenario, obviously. Okay. And I'm going to click OK, and I will see those results. It shows me the quantities that I need. Because I didn't define the whole numbers in my MRP, I can adjust those numbers, okay, and stuff like that. If I have, for the purchase orders, if I have a default vendor for the item, like in the seller rep here, the system will recommend this vendor and will take the prices from that vendor. Okay, if not, I will have to choose the vendor myself, and the system then will apply pricing and everything else. It shows me the warehouse is going to execute things of that nature. But if I'm ready to execute that, I can double click to mark everything. I cannot mark for those items, so I'm going to mark only the things I want to execute, the ones with the vendors, right? Because if I don't have a vendor, I cannot create a purchase order, so the system will not let me proceed. So I will mark only the lines that has a vendor, and I will mark also the production orders. I will make sure my results looking good. If I'm ready to proceed, I will click on update, and the system created now 5 new production and 1 new purchase order. So we can always look at them. So for example, I'm looking at the purchase order. I can always see that the origin is from MRP, and the system created the purchase order for me with the quantities, the prices, and the demand that I need for the parent production. If I look at the production order, actually 5 production that I have, now the system created multiple production for me for each week. So for each week, everything created today is the order date, but the due date is different for each week. And it has the quantities that I need. And I know that the origin is from MRP, and from now my floor knows, as soon as I release that, the floor knows that they can actually start working on that. Okay. We are 5 minutes from ending this call, so maybe I'll stop here and see if you guys have any questions.
Does the system tell you defer actions and expedite actions?
No, it will show me the red lines in the MRP, so I can drill down into the document and adjust the delivery date or adjust quantities or call the client, things of that nature. So the MRP does show you the problematic items, but it does not do the adjustment for you. It lets you do that.
But it also doesn't recommend you defer purchase orders or expedite purchase orders.
No, it just shows you that. That's correct. It just shows you that in red, so you know you have a problem in this item, and you should take a decision on the action you want to do. Expedite, call the customer, do your planning basically, because then you have so many options, I guess. Now, if I run this same MRP again, to your previous question, and I'm not going to go through all steps, just run it. Okay. The system will show me just the things that are still problematic, and the things that are still problematic are only the items that I haven't created a purchase order for. Okay. Because at the last when I executed the recommendations, I didn't execute everything. There were few that did not have a vendor code. So the system recommend me, when I run the report again, only the items that you didn't take action for.
Could you modify one of the PO that you created and put the date out 3 more months? and then rerun it? I'd like to see what that looks like.
Yeah, as long as, let's take the purchase order. So now I'm going to do a delivery date for 2/2/16. If hopefully I have 16 defined. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do update. Let's run the MRP again. And now you see 4 items and not 3 items, you see? So it does consider that, now you need to do an additional purchase. I save recommendations, and I go to the order recommendation, and I have more line items to purchase.
Could you look at the detail?
Yeah, I can, if it was, yeah, definitely. If I expand this, I can see that I have, the purchase that will be in the supply is far in the future. I don't think I have it here even, but this is how you look in the details. When you click on the supply, it shows you the purchase order that needs to be created, or the existing purchase orders that are in the system.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And
thank you.
Well, I wish you all a great Friday. It's been a busy week for everybody, I'm sure. So thanks for joining. Just to wrap this up, documentation is available obviously on YouTube and things of that nature, but I think very good document is available on our website. It's an SAP document, but since it's public, we decided to put it there. You go into our website and you can click here to do a search. Okay, so you can search MRP and that will take you to the relevant documents. Well, there are a few, or you can go to the knowledge base, and under knowledge base we have under inventory and MRP we have how to use MRP, and that basically will repeat everything I said and more, because there are a little bit more options. It's a very detailed document. So if you are the person that is doing the planning, this is the place to go.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Appreciate your time, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next month.
All right, thanks,
Thank you, Oren. Thank you.
Thank you.